At exactly 9:07 a.m. on June 29, 1944, Staff Sergeant Lafayette Pool crouched inside the cramped steel turret of his M4 Sherman tank near the small French village of Villiers-Fossard. The tank felt alive around him. The engine roared like a beast beneath the floor plates. Metal vibrated constantly. The smell of hot oil, fuel fumes, and sweat filled the tight interior. Every surface was either too hot or too sharp. There was no comfort inside a Sherman, only function, only survival. Poole leaned forward slightly, pressing his face closer to the periscope. Outside, the world was reduced to a narrow slit of vision-green hedgerows stretching across the battlefield like walls, dense, thick, unbreakable, perfect for hiding death. 300 yards ahead, something moved, not clearly, just a shift in shadow, a flicker of motion. German infantry. He didn't speak yet. He just watched, measured, calculated. Because this was his first real moment of truth. Lafayette Pool was 24 years old. He had trained for years. Fort Knox, Desert Training Center in California. Endless drills, endless simulations, endless preparation. But none of that mattered now. Because today, for the first time, the enemy would shoot back. Inside the tank, 4 other men waited with him. 5 men sealed inside 30 tons of steel. 5 lives connected to a single decision. Corporal Wilbert Baby Richards sat low in the driver's position, hands wrapped around the controls. His knuckles were steady, but his breathing wasn't. He had never driven under real fire before. Private First Class Bert Schoolboy close crouched beside the bow machine gun. Just 17 years old, the youngest in the crew. Too young to fully understand what war actually meant. Corporal Willis Groundhog Aller was already locked onto the gun sight. Calm, focused, almost unnaturally still. The kind of man you wanted behind the main gun when everything started going wrong. And behind him, Technician 5th grade Del Jailbird. Boggs stood ready, gripping a 76mm shell, loader. His job was simple, keep the gun firing, no matter what. And above them all, Lafayette Pool. Commander, leader, the man responsible for whether they lived or died in the next 10 minutes. Outside, the battlefield of Normandy stretched under a pale morning sky. 6 days earlier, American forces had stormed the beaches of France. Omaha Beach had been a bloodbath. Now the push inland had begun. The 3rd Armored Division was moving forward, trying to break through German defenses and open the road deeper into France. But Normandy wasn't open ground. It was something worse. Bocage country. Fields divided by ancient hedgerows, thick walls of earth, roots, and vegetation that could stop tanks, block vision, and hide entire enemy units. This wasn't a battlefield. It was a maze, and every corner of that maze could kill you. Poole knew what they were facing. Every tanker in the division knew. The M4 Sherman was fast, reliable, easy to produce. But against German armor, it was outmatched. German Panther tanks carried long-barreled 75mm guns with superior velocity and penetration. They could destroy a Sherman from over 2,000 yards away. Shermans couldn't even return fire effectively at that distance. And Tigers, those were something else entirely. Their 88mm guns were legendary. 1 hit, 1 kill, no second chances. Inside the Sherman, nobody talked about it. They didn't need to. They all knew the math. At long range, they were already dead. The silence inside the tank grew heavier. Then suddenly the radio crackled to life. Advance. 1 word. That was all it took. Poole didn't hesitate. His voice was calm. Flat, controlled. Driver, move. The Sherman lurched forward. Tracks grinding against dirt and stone, the tank rolled toward the narrow gap in the hedgerow ahead. That gap had been cut earlier by specialized bulldozer tanks. Without it, they'd be stuck, exposed, dead. One by one, American Shermans began pushing through the opening. The line moved slowly. Carefully. Too carefully. Poole didn't like that. But before he could say anything, the first explosion hit. To the left, an A Sherman erupted into flames. The blast was violent. The turret lifted into the air, twisting before crashing back down. Inside Poole's tank, nobody spoke. Training took over. Then another explosion. This time to the right. A second Sherman destroyed. Then a third. 5 minutes. 3 tanks gone. Just like that. Poole's eyes narrowed. Anti-tank guns, Aller said quietly. Poole didn't answer. He was already searching, scanning the hedgerows, looking for anything A-flash. Smoke, movement. Then he saw it. A shape. Low. Angular. Partially hidden behind dirt and vegetation. Target. Half-track. 400 yards. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Fire. The gun thundered. The entire tank recoiled as the shell blasted forward. For a split second, nothing. Then impact. Direct hit. The German half-track exploded into fire and debris. Pool's first kill. No celebration. No pause. Next target. Another vehicle appeared. Then another. The battlefield erupted into motion. German forces were everywhere. Hidden. Moving. Firing. Machine guns opened up. Tracer rounds cut through the air. The calm was gone, replaced by chaos. And then came the real danger. Infantry! Close-range threats. Panzerfaust teams hiding behind hedgerows, waiting, watching, letting the tanks come closer. Too close. Left side infantry, Close shouted. Before anyone could react, a streak of smoke cut through the air. Fast, silent, deadly. There was no warning, no time to think, just impact. The right side of the Sherman exploded. The track shattered. The entire tank jolted violently. Pool slammed into the turret wall. Pain shot through his shoulder. Fire, engine fire. Smoke poured into the interior. Thick, black, choking. The tank was dying. Richards didn't wait. He slammed the controls into reverse. The Sherman lurched backward, tracks grinding, slipping 20 yards. But it didn't matter. The fire was spreading. Fast. Too fast. Out. Out now. Pool's voice cut through everything. Sharp. Commanding. Final. One by one, the crew bailed out. Close first, then Boggs. Aller followed. Richards climbed out last. Pool exited through the turret hatch. The heat hit him instantly. Flames were already licking through the engine compartment. Ammunition inside the tank began to cook off. Small explosions popping from within. They hit the ground hard, rolling, crawling, putting distance between themselves and the burning machine. Then they turned and watched. And the mood burned. Their tank, their protection, their weapon, gone. Just like that. Pool stood there breathing heavily, heart pounding, ears ringing from the explosion. But he was alive. They all were, 5 men. Still standing. That alone was a miracle. Because around them other tanks burned. Not everyone had made it out. Hours later, as the sun began to set over Normandy, the battlefield grew quiet. The sounds of combat faded, replaced by something worse. Silence. Pool stood alone in a field, staring at the wreck of his Sherman. The metal was blackened, twisted, still smoking. Around him, the scale of the loss became clear. Burned-out tanks scattered across the land, destroyed vehicles, bodies. 31 Shermans lost, 12 more vehicles destroyed. All for one small village, one objective, one fight. The cost didn't make sense. Pool clenched his jaw. Something was wrong, not just with the tank, with the way they were fighting. He replayed everything in his mind. The advance, the hesitation, the distance. The way tanks were picked off one by one before they could even respond. And then a thought formed. Simple. Cold. Unavoidable. At long range, they were helpless. But at close range, that was different. At close range, a Sherman could kill. Pool looked out across the darkening battlefield. His tank was gone. His first battle was over. But something had changed. He wasn't thinking like a new tanker anymore. He was thinking like a survivor. And deep inside, a dangerous idea was taking shape. One that would break every rule in the book. One that would get him killed or turn him into something the German army had never faced before. The next morning, the battlefield looked different. Not quieter. Not safer. Just clearer. Smoke still rose from the wreckage of burned Shermans scattered across the fields near Villiers-Fossard. Blackened hulls stood like grave markers, silent reminders of what had happened just hours earlier. Pool didn't sleep much that night. Maybe an hour, maybe less. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the same thing. Tanks exploding before they could even fight back. Fire, smoke, metal tearing apart, distance. That was the problem. Distance was killing them. At first light, he made a decision. Not emotional, not reckless, calculated. He requested a meeting with his battalion commander. When he entered the command post, the colonel barely looked up at first. He had seen too many tankers walk in after their first battle shaken, exhausted, asking for reassignment. He expected the same. A young staff sergeant asking to be moved out of armor. Instead, Pool stood straight, calm, focused. I need a new tank, sir. That got the colonel's attention. He looked up slowly, studied him. No shaking hands. No fear in his voice. No hesitation. Just clarity. You'll get one, the colonel said. Anything else? There was a pause. Then Pool said something that made the room go still. I want lead position on every attack. The colonel frowned. You want what? I want to be first, every time. Now the room was silent. Officers nearby stopped what they were doing. Some of them actually turned to look. because what he was asking for didn't make sense. Lead tanks died first. Lead tanks drew fire. Lead tanks didn't survive long. The colonel leaned back slightly, studying him more carefully now. Why? Poole didn't explain everything. Didn't give a long speech, just 3 words. Getting close. For a moment, nobody said anything. Then someone in the room let out a quiet breath, because they understood exactly what he meant, and exactly how dangerous it was. At long range, Shermans were targets. At close range, they had a chance. But getting close meant crossing open ground under enemy fire. It meant driving straight into danger instead of avoiding it. It meant doing the one thing every instinct told you not to do. The colonel shook his head slightly. You realize what you're asking? Yes, sir. You realize you'll be the first target every time? Yes, sir. And you still want it? Poole didn't hesitate. Yes, sir. The colonel stared at him for a few seconds longer. Then finally he nodded. Get him a tank. On July 1st, 1944, Lafayette Pool received his second Sherman, an M4A1 equipped with the newer 76mm gun. It was better than the previous model. Better penetration, better performance, but still not enough to reliably defeat a Panther from the front at long range. The math hadn't changed, only the plan had. The crew gathered around the new tank. Same 5 men, same faces. But something was different now. They had seen real combat. They had watched their tank burn. They had survived. And that changes a man. Richards ran his hand along the side of the hull. Feels the same, he muttered. Boggs smirked slightly. Let's hope it doesn't end the same. Close didn't say anything. He just looked at Poole, waiting, because they all knew something had changed in him. Poole climbed up onto the tank and looked down at them. We're naming it the same. Richards frowned. You serious? Poole nodded. In the mood. Same name, different tank, same crew, same war, but now a different way of fighting. The official doctrine was clear. Engage at distance. Use cover. Let tank destroyers handle enemy armor. It was safe. It was logical. And it was getting American tankers killed. Poole ignored it. Completely. His plan was simple. So simple it sounded insane. When you see the enemy, don't stop. Don't take cover. Don't wait. Charge. Close the distance to under 300 yards. Fire first. Win. Inside the tank, the crew wasn't convinced. Richards finally said what everyone was thinking. You got a death wish or something? Poole looked at him. Calm. No. Then he explained. Not emotionally. Not dramatically. Just facts. At 2,000 yards, we die. He paused. At 300 yards, they die. Silence. The logic was brutal. Simple. Unavoidable. Close swallowed slightly. So we just drive straight at them? Yes. While they're shooting at us? Yes. Nobody laughed, because they knew he wasn't joking. Early August.
The unit began pushing deeper into France.
The hedgerows were still there. The danger was still there. But now Poole was leading. Every time. His Sherman moved at the front of the formation. The first tank the enemy would see. The first tank they would fire at. And the first tank to respond. On August 2nd, near a small area outside Normandy, Poole saw them. 2 German tanks, Mark V Panthers. 800 yards away. Standard doctrine was clear. Stop. Take cover. Engage from distance. Poole didn't even consider it. Driver full speed. Richards hesitated for half a second, then pushed the throttle forward. The Sherman surged ahead, 25 miles per hour, straight at the enemy. Inside the tank, everything shook violently. The engine roared louder. Tracks slammed against uneven ground. The distance closed fast, 800 yards. The German tanks saw them. Of course they did. A single Sherman charging directly toward them, not slowing, not stopping, not taking cover. It didn't make sense. And for a few critical seconds they hesitated, because no trained tank commander would do that. It had to be a mistake, a damaged tank, a panicked crew. Something wasn't right. That hesitation, that confusion, it was everything. Poole counted the distance in his head. 500 yards. Closer. 400 yards. On target. Aller was ready. Locked in. Focused. Fire. The gun roared. The shell crossed the distance in an instant. Impact. The first Panther exploded. Flames burst from the hull. The turret jerked violently. Destroyed. Reload. Boggs slammed another round into the breech. Smooth. Fast. 4 seconds. The second Panther reacted. Its turret swung toward Poole's Sherman, but now it was too late. They were too close. Fire. Second shot. Direct hit. Penetration. The German tank burned. 2 Panthers. Destroyed in under a minute. Inside the Sherman, nobody spoke. Not immediately. Because what just happened shouldn't have worked. But it did. Poole didn't celebrate. Didn't smile. He just looked forward. Keep moving.
That was the moment everything changed.
Not just for Poole, for his crew, for his unit, because they had just proven something no one wanted to believe. The Sherman wasn't useless. It was being used wrong. At long range, it was a target.
At close range, it was deadly.
But getting to that range required something most crews didn't have: nerve, speed, and the willingness to drive straight into enemy fire. From that day forward, Poole never stopped doing it. Every engagement followed the same pattern: spot the enemy, charge, close distance, fire first, win. And every time it worked, the crew believed a little more, feared a little less, moved a little faster, until eventually it became instinct. By mid-August, something else began to happen. Word spread. Other crews started hearing about it. A Sherman that didn't stop. A commander who charged Panthers instead of hiding from them. Some called him crazy. Some called him reckless. But the ones who saw the results started paying attention. Because the results were undeniable. Kills were increasing. Survival rates improving. And every battle ended the same way, with German armor burning at close range. Inside in the mood, the atmosphere had changed completely. The fear was still there. It never left. But now it was controlled, focused, turned into something useful. Richards no longer hesitated when ordered forward. Close fired without panic. Boggs loaded faster than ever. And Aller became something else entirely. One of the fastest, most accurate gunners in the division. Because now they all understood the plan. And more importantly, they believed in it. But war doesn't reward success forever. And Poole's method, as effective as it was, came with a cost. Because every time they charged, they were gambling everything. And sooner or later, that gamble would catch up to them. By mid-August 1944, something had changed on the battlefield. Not the terrain, not the enemy, but the way one man fought. Staff Sergeant Lafayette Pool was no longer just another tank commander in the 3rd Armored Division. He was becoming something else, something the enemy didn't understand, something even his own side struggled to explain. Because what he was doing wasn't supposed to work. France blurred past in a constant haze of dust, smoke, and movement. The Allied advance had gained momentum after breaking out of Normandy. German forces were retreating, regrouping, trying to hold defensive lines wherever they could. But retreat didn't mean weakness. It meant desperation, and desperate enemies were dangerous. Poole's Sherman rolled at the front of the column as always, in the mood. 2nd Tank, same name, same crew. But now, they were different men. They had seen tanks burn. They had survived explosions, and they had proven something no manual had ever taught them. Close the distance or die trying. The sun hung high over the fields as the unit pushed forward through a patchwork of farmland and scattered villages. The hedgerows still cut visibility to almost nothing. Every corner, every bend, every open field could hide a German gun. Inside the tank, no one spoke much anymore. They didn't need to. Every man knew his role. Every movement was automatic. Richards drove with confidence now. No longer second-guessing orders. Close scan constantly, finger resting on the trigger of his machine gun. Boggs kept rounds ready, his hands moving with practiced speed. And Aller had become lethal. He didn't just aim. He anticipated. He read the battlefield like a hunter reads tracks. Poole stood half-exposed in the commander's hatch, ignoring the danger. He always did. He preferred visibility over safety, because in his mind, seeing first meant surviving longer. August 13th. Near the village of Fromental, the column slowed. Something wasn't right. Poole felt it before he saw it. The kind of silence that didn't belong in war. Too still, too quiet. Then movement. Contact front. 2 shapes emerged beyond the hedgerow, then 2 more. German armor. Panthers. 4 of them. Positioned to ambush. At range, they had the advantage. They always did. Inside the tank, the tension snapped tight. Richards instinctively eased off the throttle, waiting, expecting the usual order. Stop. Take cover. Engage carefully. But Poole didn't say that. He never did. Full speed. Richards didn't question it this time. The Sherman surged forward, engine roaring, tracks tearing into the dirt, straight toward the enemy. The German crews saw them immediately. 1 Sherman, charging, not stopping, not hiding, charging. It didn't make sense. Again, that hesitation, that moment of doubt. It was small, just seconds. But Poole lived inside those seconds. He used them. 400 yards. Target left. Aller locked on. Fire. The shot cracked through the air. The first Panther exploded. Flames burst from the hull. Before the wreck even settled, reload. Boggs slammed another round in. 4 seconds. Second target. The turret swung. Another shot. Another hit. Another explosion. 2 tanks down. The remaining German crews reacted now. Too late. They fired but missed. Pool kept moving, closing the distance even more. 200 yards. Point blank for tanks. Third target. Fire. Impact. Kill. The fourth. Panther tried to escape fire. The final shot hit. Penetration. Explosion. All 4 tanks burned. The entire engagement lasted less than a minute. Inside the Sherman, the crew sat in stunned silence for a second. 4 Panthers. Gone. Just like that. Richards let out a slow breath. This actually works. Pool didn't respond. He just scanned ahead. Keep moving. From that moment on, the pattern repeated. Again, and again, and again. Every battle followed the same deadly rhythm. Spot. Charge. Destroy. Pool didn't adapt his tactic. He perfected it. Days blurred together. August turned into a constant series of engagements. Near roads, villages, open fields, everywhere. German armor appeared and disappeared in flames. Pool's kill count climbed, not slowly, rapidly. 2 tanks here, another 3 there. Armored cars, half-tracks, anti-tank guns. Anything that moved, anything that could fight was destroyed. Near another engagement outside a small French town, Pool's unit encountered heavy resistance. German infantry supported by armored vehicles. Panzerfaust teams hidden in buildings. Danger at every angle. But now the crew didn't hesitate. They moved like a machine. Close open fire first. Machine gun cutting down infantry before they could aim. Bogs loaded without looking. 1 shell after another. All are fired with terrifying speed. Precise, accurate, relentless. And Pool drove them straight into the fight every time. No hesitation. No fear visible. Only calculation. But then war reminded them it was never under control. August 17th. Fromental again. The battle was already underway. German forces were collapsing, retreating, breaking. Pool's platoon pushed forward to clear the last resistance. Then a sound from above. Different. Louder. Faster. Aircraft. American. AP-38 Lightning cut across the sky. Fast. Low. Too low. Pool looked up instantly. Something felt wrong. The plane shifted direction. Lined up. Directly toward them. No. Too late. The machine guns opened fire. .50 caliber rounds slammed into the Sherman. Metal screamed. Rounds tore through the engine deck. Friendly! Friendly! No response. Then the rockets came. One struck near the turret. Another hit the hull. The explosion rocked the tank violently. Fire erupted instantly. And the mood was hit. Again. Inside, chaos exploded. Out! Out! The crew didn't wait. They bailed out for the second time in 7 weeks, rolling onto the ground as their tank burned behind them. Richard slammed his fist into the dirt. Are you kidding me? Close was shaking, not from fear, from anger. Aller just stared at the burning wreck. Silent. Boggs wiped soot from his face. How many times we gotta survive this? Pool looked at the tank, then back at his crew. As many as it takes. The second Sherman burned. Second time. Same result. Crew alive. Tank gone. Most men would have slowed down after that. Pulled back. Played it safe. Pool didn't. The next day he got another tank. Another M4A1. Another 76mm gun. And he gave it the same name. In the mood. Third tank. Same war. Same strategy. By now his reputation had spread. Infantry units began requesting him. Commanders stopped trying to hold him back. Because wherever Pool went the line moved forward. Enemy armor disappeared. Resistance collapsed. His tactics weren't just working. They were changing the battlefield. Inside the tank, something else had changed too. The fear was gone. Not completely, but enough. Now there was confidence, trust, speed. They no longer questioned the plan. Because they had seen it work too many times, they knew what would happen. Close the distance, fire first, win. By the end of August, Pool was no longer just a tank commander. He was a problem for the enemy. Because German crews started hearing about him too. A Sherman that didn't stop. A crew that charged instead of hiding. A commander who broke every rule. And survived. But even legends run out of time. And Pool's run was getting closer to its end. By late August 1944, the war in France had changed. The breakout from Normandy had shattered German defensive lines. Allied forces were advancing fast, pushing east with relentless pressure. Cities were falling. Villages were being cleared. Roads that once belonged to German convoys were now filled with American armor rolling forward without stopping. But even in retreat, German forces were still deadly, because retreat didn't mean defeat. It meant they were looking for the perfect moment to strike back. And in the middle of that chaos, one Sherman tank kept appearing at the front of every advance. In the mood. Third tank. Same name. Same crew. But now they weren't just surviving. They were dominating. Inside the tank, everything had become instinct. There were no wasted movements anymore. No hesitation. No second guessing. Richards didn't wait for full commands, he anticipated them. Close scanned constantly, cutting down infantry before they even became a threat. Boggs loaded shells with machine-like precision. 4 seconds, sometimes faster. Aller had become one of the fastest gunners in the entire division. He didn't just fire. He executed. Target. Aim. Fire. No delay. No panic. And Pool stood in the hatch like always. Exposed. Vulnerable. But in control. Because for him, visibility was survival. August 29th, 1944. Early morning. A crossroads somewhere in France. Fog still hung low over the fields. The kind of fog that hides movement. The kind that gets men killed. Pool's Sherman rolled ahead of the column. Alone. As always. Richards glanced up slightly. You sure we don't wait for the others? Pool didn't even look down. No. One word. That was enough. Then shapes. Dark. Moving through the fog. Pool saw them first. 4 German tanks. Positioned near the crossroads. Waiting. Another ambush. Another trap. At long range, this was a death sentence. 4 tanks against 1. Even for Pool, the odds were bad. But Pool didn't slow down. Didn't hesitate. Didn't think twice. Full speed. The Sherman surged forward. Engine roaring louder than ever. Tracks tearing through the dirt. The fog began to break as they closed distance. 800 yards. The German tanks saw them. Of course they did. A single Sherman charging straight at them. Again the same reaction. Confusion. Hesitation. Because nothing about it made sense. 600 yards. Still closing. Inside the German tanks, commanders were trying to understand what they were seeing. Why wasn't it stopping? Why wasn't it taking cover? Why was it coming straight at them? 400 yards. Target front. All are locked in. Fire. The first shot thundered out. Impact. Direct hit. The first German tank exploded. Flames burst through the hull. Destroyed instantly. Reload. Boggs moved fast. Shell in. Breach closed. Up! The second German tank reacted. Turret swinging. Trying to aim. Trying to fire. But Pool was already moving. Closer. Faster. More aggressive. 300 yards. Fire. Second shot. Penetration. Explosion. Second tank down. Now panic set in. The remaining German crews fired wildly. Shots missed. Kicked up dirt. Whistled past. Too slow. Too late. Pool didn't stop. He never stopped. 200 yards. Point blank. Third target. Fire. Hit. Kill. Third tank burning. The fourth tank tried to reverse. Tried to escape. Tried to get distance. Because now they understood. Too late. Finish it. Aller didn't hesitate. Final shot. Direct hit. The fourth tank exploded. 4 German tanks. Destroyed. In under 6 minutes. Inside the Sherman silence. Not shock. Not disbelief. Just understanding. They had done it again. Richards exhaled slowly. That's 4. Boggs shook his head slightly. In 6 minutes, Close just stared forward, processing it. Aller reloaded automatically, even though there were no targets left, and Pool didn't react, didn't celebrate, didn't even smile. Keep moving, because for him this wasn't the end of the fight. It was just another step forward. Over the next 3 days, the destruction didn't stop. It increased. Pool's platoon spearheaded the advance through territory still held by remnants of German armored divisions. Every road, every village, every open field turned into another engagement. German forces tried to hold ground, tried to slow the advance, tried to regroup. But every time they did, Pool hit them first. Anti-tank guns hidden in buildings destroyed. Armored cars attempting to reposition destroyed. Supply convoys trying to escape destroyed. The numbers started stacking fast. 3 anti-tank guns eliminated. Dozens of armored vehicles burned. Infantry units wiped out or forced to surrender. At one point, 27 German soldiers surrendered after watching their supporting armor get destroyed in minutes. They didn't run. They didn't fight. They just dropped their weapons. Because they understood something clearly: they couldn't win. Word spread even faster now. Not just among American units, but among the Germans too. A Sherman tank that charged instead of hiding. A crew that didn't follow normal tactics. A commander who broke every rule and survived. Some German crews started firing earlier, trying to stop him at distance. But it didn't matter, because hesitation still existed. That moment of confusion, it was still there, and Pool used it every time. By early September, his numbers were no longer normal. They were unbelievable. 12 confirmed German tanks destroyed. Panthers, Mark IVs. Even a Tiger that made the mistake of exposing its side armor. 258 total vehicles destroyed. Half-tracks, armored cars, trucks. Anything the enemy used to fight Pool destroyed it. Over 1,000 enemy casualties, more than 250 prisoners taken, all in just 81 days of combat. The battalion commanders stopped questioning him. They stopped trying to control his position. Because wherever Pool led, the line moved forward faster, with fewer losses. His tactics were no longer seen as reckless. They were seen as effective. Aggression beat armor. Speed beat firepower. Close range beat long range. Inside in the mood, the crew had become something rare, perfectly synchronized. Each man trusted the others completely. There was no hesitation left, no doubt. Richards didn't ask questions anymore. He drove straight into fire without thinking twice. Close fired instantly at any movement. Boggs loaded faster than anyone else. Aller hit targets almost before they fully appeared. And Pool had become something even more dangerous, predictable in method, unpredictable in execution. Because every enemy knew what he would do, but stopping it was something else entirely. But war doesn't allow perfection forever. No matter how skilled, no matter how fast, no matter how aggressive, eventually something breaks, a mistake, a delay, a single second. And when that moment comes, it doesn't matter how good you are. By mid-September, Pool had only a few days left before rotation, a few days before going home. After everything, after surviving 3 tanks, after beating every enemy he faced, he was almost done. By mid-September 1944, Staff Sergeant Lafayette Pool had done what most tank commanders never survived long enough to attempt. 81 days of continuous combat, 3 destroyed tanks, 12 confirmed German Panzers eliminated, 258 total vehicles destroyed, over 1,000 enemy casualties. He had led from the front every single time, and somehow he was still alive. The 3rd Armored Division had pushed all the way to the edge of Germany. The next objective stood in front of them like a wall. The Siegfried Line, concrete bunkers, hidden anti-tank guns, reinforced defenses designed to stop entire armies. This wasn't open warfare anymore. This was a defensive nightmare. September 19, 1944, near a place called Münsterbusch, just southeast of Ochan. The morning was cold, still, too still, the kind of quiet that always came before. Something went wrong. For the first time in weeks, Pool wasn't leading the attack. Orders from above. His platoon was assigned to flank security. Support role. Stay back. Observe. Hold position. It didn't feel right. Not to him. Not after everything. But orders were orders. In the mood, 3rd Tank rolled into position. The crew inside was slightly different. Corporal Willis Aller, his trusted gunner, was gone, temporarily sent back to the United States for medical evaluation. A replacement had taken his place. Private First Class Paul Kenneth King, first combat mission. First time inside a tank under real fire. That alone changed everything. Inside the tank, the energy felt different. Not wrong, but not the same. King's hands weren't as steady. His breathing wasn't controlled. His movements lacked the precision that only experience could build. Pool noticed it. Of course he did. But there was no time to train. No time to adjust. War didn't wait. Then movement. Pool spotted it instantly. A German anti-tank gun hidden inside a house. 300 yards. Perfect position. If it fired first, they were done. Load HE, destroy that gun. King reacted fast. Too fast. He grabbed the shell, shoved it into the breech too hard. Too rushed. The round jammed. Inside the turret, time froze. Clear it. Clear IT. Pool moved instantly. Hands working the mechanism. Trying to free the stuck round. Forcing it. Pulling. Nothing. Outside, the German crew was already reacting. They had seen the Sherman. They were ready. The gun fired. Impact. The shell slammed into the turret. The entire tank shook violently. Metal screamed. But it didn't penetrate. Not yet. Back up. Richards reacted instantly. The tank lurched into reverse. Trying to create distance. Trying to survive. Inside, Pool was still fighting the jammed gun. Seconds mattered now. Just seconds. The German crew reloaded. Faster than expected. More experienced. More prepared. Move! Move! Pool shouted. But it was already too late. The second shot came. This time it hit perfectly, the right side of the Sherman, just as the tank tilted backward near a ditch. Penetration. The explosion inside the tank was violent. Fire, shrapnel, shockwave. The entire 30-ton machine flipped. Pool was thrown out of the commander's hatch, 12 feet, straight to the ground below. He hit hard. Wrong. The pain was instant, explosive, blinding. His right leg was gone. Not completely detached but destroyed. Shattered in multiple places. Twisted in a way no limb should ever be. He looked down and saw it. Bone, blood, flesh torn apart. For a moment he didn't feel fear. He felt clarity. Inside the overturned tank chaos, King was dead, killed instantly by the penetrating round. Richards crawled out through the driver's hatch. Close forced himself out through the front. Boggs emerged last, covered in blood. Not his own. Poole reached for his first aid pouch, hands shaking now. He pulled out a morphine syrette, injected it into his thigh. The pain dulled, but didn't disappear. He looked at his leg again, knew what it meant, knew what would happen. He pulled out his pocket knife and tried to cut it off. Better to lose the leg now than bleed out waiting. Before he could continue, a hand grabbed him, hard, firm. Lieutenant Colonel Walter Richardson. Stop, medics are coming. Another injection.
More morphine.
The world began to fade. Medics arrived seconds later. Bandages, pressure, sulfa powder, trying to stop the bleeding. Poole grabbed Richardson's arm. His voice is weak now, slurred. Take care of my tank. Then everything went black. The war was over for Lafayette Pool. 81 days, that's all it took to become a legend. Doctors amputated his leg above the knee. Field hospital, Belgium. No ceremony, no choice. He survived, but not unchanged. Most men would have gone home, disappeared into quiet life, forgotten the war. Poole didn't. After recovery, he came back, re-enlisted, served again, not in combat, but in training, teaching new tankers, passing on what he had learned. His lessons were simple, brutal, effective. Move fast, get close, fire first. Decades passed. The war faded into history, but his story didn't, because what he proved was bigger than one battle, bigger than one war. He proved that courage can beat superior firepower, speed can defeat strength, and one man's decision can change everything. Lafayette Pool died on May 30th, 1991, at the age of 71, buried with full military honors. His grave doesn't list his kills, doesn't mention the tanks, doesn't tell the full story, because for him it was never about numbers. It was about the crew. 5 men, 1 tank, 81 days, and a decision that changed how they fought.